Eagles. All right. So after everything has been said and done for week 4, and after listening to the media, which is becoming somewhat toxic, I wouldn't say somewhat. It is. We know how it is. It's all for clicks. It's all for, you know, show and who can bring the most attention into themselves by saying the most outlandish things sometimes. That's really what it kind of all boils down to. Um, but on the flip side, you have the balance of listening to your fellow Eagles fans. Now, of course, obviously they can be biased, so you have to take everything with a grain of salt, right? You have to mix in what your the people who agree with you are saying and the people who don't agree with you are saying, and then you try to find that balance. So after listening to everything, I think it's important to not overlook one detail. Our wide receiver is crying out in a non destructive way, right? I say it's non destructive because you have people who throw helmets, people who throw tantrums, people who type all kinds of trash online, people who physically fight their teammates or their coaches, or do all kinds of things, do drugs, have other destructive behavior. And last year, the way AJ tamed the feelings that he had inside was by reading and by centering himself and by being what he considered to be a team player, to say, hey, you know, let me try your way. Let me try. You say, calm down. It's for the good of the team. We're going to win the Super Bowl. Let's see. And we did win the Super Bowl. And you know what he said afterwards? He says, I won the Super Bowl. And I thought that this was from him. He thought that was supposed to be the greatest thing that ever happened, right? I reached the mountaintop. He got the victory. He's a Super Bowl champion. But the feeling lasted like 24, 48 hours for him. It wasn't the thing that sustained him. He told us the thing that sustained him was beating his coverage, was demoralizing the competition, was basically what the Rams game was, right? The ending of the Rams game is what gets AJ's blood going. It's what feeds the beast within him. It's when it's him versus another opponent, whether, and we're not just saying when he beats them, right, or he's wide open. Those are great too. But in the Rams game, he's covered tightly, right? That Rams coverage wasn't weak. He's covered tightly, but he makes the contested catch. He beats the man and they fall to the ground and he steps over him and he gets a couple more yards. Or he catches it and he spins or jukes or whatever and makes the man miss and gets a couple extra yards. Or he goes up over the top where everybody else, they say, you'll never be able to make that catch. But he is able to make it and bring it in. That's what really gets AJ going. All right. It's just like we have what they call love languages. Words of affirmation and gifts and blah, blah, blah. We really know the world is 90% gifts and then 10% all the other stuff. For AJ, his words of affirmation are beating the pants off of who's covering him. So I get to thinking to myself, and I said this in a message to the NFL, comment section. I live for comments on YouTube. I think it's one of the best parts of YouTube, seeing a video and then reading how somebody else reacted to it. I don't know, reaction videos to me have lost their luster. I'm getting off on a small tangent here, but it came to my mind, so I want to talk about it. When I see a reaction video where the creator has their mouth open, or making all kinds of foolish, like outlandish faces as the thumbnail to drag you in, I actually avoid those. Those are not, in my opinion, genuine reactions. I hate that. I much rather there be no expression or not even see the creator's face than get their reaction to whatever transpired. But regardless of that, um, that's what feeds AJ's soul as a player. I think AJ would almost rather be on a terrible team that solely relies on him to make the big plays, even if they're losing. He's the big playmaker with the one-handed catch. He's the big playmaker that they solely rely on to go down the field. I'm not sure that AJ is really happy on a team that has so many options, right? With the Philadelphia Eagles, we have so many hands and so many feet and so many backs and so many shoulders that we can rely on. I'm not sure at this point because at the beginning, he's been around what 4 years, 3 4 years, I think 4 years, maybe even more. But it started off as him being like the go-to guy, right? Jalen to AJ, Jalen to AJ, Jalen to mix him with Smitty. Smitty was always an option, but it was mostly Jalen to AJ. And he had his 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, or less, depending on how many reps he had, how many games he played. I looked at that not too long ago. Depending on how many games he played, he had crazy production. But then you come around to a season like last year where Saquon took the brunt of the production. And then when Saquon wasn't needed, we got it to everybody else. And it was sparingly. It was less for AJ to do because Saquon took a lot of it. There was, in our eyes, in our opinions, and we know this to be true, it's not that we can't get it to AJ. It's not that we can't get it and get a pass game going. You saw the end of the Rams game, the beginning of the Bucks game. We have the capacity for explosive, creative, great-looking offenses. We had built up that resume during last year, but again, sparingly. Like when we went into that Pittsburgh game where they were like, hey, no, it's not going to be all about Saquon, you're going to have to mix it up. Where it was in that Ravens game where they were like, oh no, you're going to have to mix it up. Saquon had great breakout runs in those games, but it was more heavily on the passing. Where you have the Commanders game where you got a mix of passing and throwing, where you have the Super Bowl where it was all passing, right? But those instances weren't enough to satiate AJ. And I'm sitting and thinking to myself, if we can give Saquon the ball 100 times, and I'm exaggerating, and run up the gut with the same stupid play that slams him into coverages where he can barely get 2 yards and we know he's better than that, but everybody's selling out for him, why the heck can't we throw to AJ, whether it works or not? Because obviously we're willing to do a play that doesn't work. Obviously, we're willing to run an offense that doesn't work. You saw what we did with AJ in that last game. So Acho breaks down the 9 targets. And he's like, okay, you got 9 targets. How do you have 7 yards? But Acho's take was disingenuous, okay? Acho's take on the 9 catches, in my opinion, was more as a slander against Hurts than it was to say that, okay, he got his 9 targets. They were, our receiver is complaining, force feed him the ball. I mentioned that in the Bucks game. I said, listen, we are force feeding AJ on the complaints versus getting him open. I mentioned that too. But that's not a slight on Hurts. That's a slight on the OC trying to placate AJ but not making up real plays for him. When we were in the beginning of the game, we had real plays. We had fake tush pushes that were designed to get Saquon rolled off to the side. We had fake tush pushes or fake runs where we pitched it to Goddard intentionally. We were making up plays. And we had Tampa Bay's head on a freaking turnstile. in that first quarter, which is why the offense looked amazing. Okay? So all AJ and everybody else is saying is give me some of that. And I agree with AJ. Give him some of that. Otherwise, the man is going to ask to go to the Titans. I don't know if he'll go back to the Titans. Say he'll go to the Patriots, or he'll go to some other team that needs a wide receiver, that needs him. You want to go where you're needed. You want to go where you're appreciated. And don't get it twisted, AJ. Do not get it twisted for a second. Not from the coaches, other than Patullo. I believe, Nick. Now, there's two sides of a coach, right? There's two sides of a leader that you have to be when you're in front of the media. You have to say the right things, right? You can't say, oh, you can't sell out Kevin Patullo. You can't say, oh, well, Kevin Patullo did a great job in the first half and a piss poor job in the second half. I'll talk to him, I'll get with him, and we'll get right. He can't say that, right? He has to have personal conversations with you, which I hope that you feel are genuine, that help you understand what's going on with the game and that it's going to get better. And I believe that it will. We were 2-2 last year. We turned up the juice and we got it going. I believe to turn up the juice this year is going to be you. I believe to turn up the juice this year is going to be the passing with you, Smitty, Calcaterra, Goddard, and making up amazing plays because everybody is so focused on stopping Saquon from beating them. And our team is so good at winning even when they stop Saquon. You see, Saquon has zero production. Zero production this year. I looked at last year. It's not to say that Saquon had under 100-yard rushing games last year, because he did. I looked at it. He had 5 5 games with under 100 rushing yards last year. But then he had all the other ones where he had super huge production, 200-yard games and close to that. I believe that this year, I started off thinking that he was going to go for 2,000 again. He was going to be the first rusher to go back-to-back. But in my opinion, the way that every team is looking at the Eagles now, that their whole intent and purpose is not to make sure he doesn't. Now, that's not to say that he won't again. Maybe next year they've eased up off of him and the pain of our Super Bowl run and Super Bowl 59 has kind of lingered off and they let up the gas on him. But this year, I believe that it's going to be the year for you to shine, AJ, for Smitty to get more balls, for everybody, the ball to be passed around more equally. But still, I don't even know if that's enough for AJ. That getting the ball spread around equally is enough for him. Only he knows that. But he may be happier. The Dolphins just lost Tyreek Hill. He may be happier there with Tua throwing him the ball. Or the Jets. Or let's see who else. He may be happier with the Raiders with Geno slinging him the ball. Because look, these are teams that are struggling. These are teams that absolutely need superstar help, right? I'm not sure Howie Roseman would let him go, and he shouldn't. He should assure him that his place and his value is here in Philadelphia, and we want to accommodate his requests, but not at the detriment of the team. Now, I want to make that clear on this video. We should accommodate our players' requests, our quarterback saying, getting in the OC's tail saying, listen, the scheme ain't working. We need something else and we need it fast. We need adjustments. He should accommodate his players, his tight ends, his running backs. This is a coach that has to hear all 53 of his roster, all of his coaches, all of his bosses, which are Howie and Jeffrey, Lurie. I don't know why I drew a blank right there. And then put that all together to be successful on the field. You know what's not successful on the field? But everybody likes to get on their top 10s and say Baltimore and Bengals, and this, that, and the other, those teams are not successful in the field. Those teams are full of stats, but no victories. Those teams are full of great players. I'm not saying Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Derrick Henry and Lamar aren't great players, but they are full of winless, and when I say winless, I mean championships, teams, where they haven't figured out the formula to making all the pieces come together to get to a Super Bowl, to win a Super Bowl, to be back to another Super Bowl within 3 years. They haven't figured that out. Where the Eagles have. They have figured out that balance. And that balance needs to shift and it needs to adjust based on how the league throws out their defense to us. We have to adjust with that. So Coach Sirianni has to deal with that as well. But back to my point, if we're gonna slam slam Saquon for no yards, we better throw and good passes to AJ for some production or for some attempts at production. So we're back to Emmanuel. I'm jumping all around, but it's all based on the same thing. We're back to Emmanuel. He's like, look at this target. It's overthrown. I mentioned that. Look at this. It's force fed. I mentioned that. But again, in my opinion, all of those takes were as a slight to Jalen saying he's terrible, right? He's bad at passing. He's off his game. No. Don't play yourself. I understand that you're a player, but context is key. Isn't that what you said in your video? Context is key. These are forced efforts to try to make sure that AJ understands that we want to get him the ball, but not designed efforts to make sure he gets the ball in the right time, in the right space, in the right moments for positive productivity, which is what we all want, right? Those are bad examples. You throw that whole 9 targets out the window because that was just in that game where it was just all stupid. Because our OC, for whatever reason, I just bumped his head at halftime. Because if he kept his first half head, AJ would have had great production. If he would have kept his Rams head, AJ would have had more targets like that and more productivity like he had in that game. And there's no inconsistency where Hurts is inconsistency with the play caller, which is another new play caller. If we had Kellen Moore the same way we kept Vic, look how Vic has the rookies. I'm sitting here worried that the rookies are going to be our weak point, our sore point. And the rookies and the defense are keeping us in every one of these games. The defense is the reason why we're not 0-4. They're holding teams off. They're holding back the floodwaters. The same way that our defense was holding it back last year. Vic Fangio is an amazing DC. And that's what we need for the offensive side of the board. Whether we got rookies or not, we're squeezing the productivity out of their fibers. Right? That's what Vic is doing with those guys, along with Zach Bond and Cooper DeJean and Quinyon. They just got tired in that Tampa game because they were on the field too long. But that first half and the second, plus those other games are true testaments at how a coordinator can make something out of what seems like it might be nothing. We were all worried about losing all the vets and the talent. And he's made a way. If Kevin can put 2 halves together, look at the weaknesses of the opponent that we're facing, the man coverage, the zone coverage, the whatever, and draw out plays that gets our guys open. There was a good point with one of Manuel's looks where we ignored a wide open man who sprung free to force it to AJ because, again, we were trying to make sure, hey, AJ, we see you. We want to get you the ball. We don't want to do that because that's at the detriment of the team. We want to always go to the open man, or if AJ is on top, one-on-one coverage or wherever move that he makes to get himself open, throw it in on time to that open look. If our OC can do that, AJ will have no complaints. Because listen, Saquon this year, up to this point, is not it. We used the run to open up the pass game last year. It needs to be the reverse this year, for now. And listen, that needs to be fluid. I mentioned that. It can't be stagnant. It has to be fluid. The minute they start to triple team AJ and to come off the line and send everybody back and send the safeties and lose the spies and all of that, then you go back and you punish with Saquon. You have to be able to do it all like we were able to last year. You have to be able to put all of that together. Somebody call Kellen Moore. The Saints are in the toilet. Put Patullo down there on the Saints. Let him be the OC on the Saints. Let him be the head coach on the Saints. And bring Kellen Moore back. And get this offense where it needs to be. I'm not a person who wants people to lose their jobs. I understand it. Even somebody like him who's making millions. Right? I want people to keep their jobs, but they need to be decent at them. And they need not to be tanking our amazing team and giving us all headaches and making us all pray to God that we don't see another 2023 season where we're 10-1 and then we collapsed and the walls fell in. We don't want that. We do not want that. Now, granted, that year we had a terrible defense, but at the end of the year, it wasn't just the defense that fell apart. Our offense ended up falling apart too. We couldn't put up the points that we were putting up in the beginning of the year that kept us in games. They brought us back from 10-point deficits 4 games in a row against the big boys. That fell apart too. Right now, that's already falling apart. The defense is there. But the offense isn't there all the time. Excuse me. You see how the Chiefs look with Worthy back? And then when they get Rice back, they look like a different team. That's what we need. That's what we need for our side. We need it to be opened up. AJ, don't give up on us, please. I'm a nobody. I'm just a fan. I'm just a fan of the Eagles, right? But I know how amazing you are. We've watched you over the years make crazy catches, do things like you did in the Rams game. It's important for us to have a player like you on our roster to keep that depth. But I understand, as a man, as a grown man, I'm old enough to be your dad. I have kids your age. So I understand it. You have to forge your own path. And if this isn't where you want to be, I'm asking, pretty please, if this isn't where you want to be after this year, request your trade and move on. I get it. I totally get it. Sometimes peace is worth less money. Sometimes peace is worth less space, less of everything to have peace, less wins. Like I said, you might be happier on a 1-3 team or an 0-4 team if you're the man. You might be happier there, and I get that. Please give us this year to get it together, to get our offense humming like it was last year. After we were 2-2, we went on the bye, we were at week 6. Please give us to week 6 to see how it goes and then go for the rest of the year. And if this isn't where you want to be after that time, I understand if you request a trade, but I think that we'll get it together. I think you'll be happy with what happens with our team and how Jalen and everybody else assists getting our offense humming on all cylinders. But if not, brother, I get it. I get it. Do what makes you happy and what satisfies you in the game. You're playing this. You're sacrificing your body. You are doing this for you, not only for a paycheck, but for actually for the love of the game. We know that there are players that are on rosters that are happy to be on the bench just to make a paycheck. That's not you. You want to be out on the field sweating and beating people. We get it. You want to play. So give us an opportunity this year, and then if not, we get it. Request your trade. Hopefully you get it. Hopefully Howie and Jeffrey understand what I understand about your desires and your need, and don't try to stifle you, right? Like how the Giants didn't try to stifle Saquon the year prior and how he had his production because he was used properly and teams were getting beat. And maybe, I hope it's the Eagles, but maybe some team can get you what you desire. And maybe even a championship with another team. You may be that corner piece at another team that gets them to a championship. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But I'm saying, brother, you've been 10 toes down with Jalen and in the Eagles. I think that this is your spot for years to come. I do. Look at it this way. And I know I'm dragging on, but look at it this way. With a little bit less wear and tear on your body, you can stretch your career a little bit longer and get more reps, more checks, and more action on the field. Hey, a win for everybody, right? We get you your targets. We get you your yards. We get you your bonuses. But we don't have you being the person that everybody's triple teaming and that they kill down the line and twist up your ACL and your back and your neck and all of that. Maybe that. Can you give us that? Can you give us that? Fly, Eagles, fly. Go Birds.